You're listening to Investigation Insiders by Integris Intelligence.
Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Investigation Insiders. This is Forhad. Hope you are all doing well. Happy New Year to all. I'm hopeful that 2021 is better than 2020. Joining me today is my trusted friend and colleague, Joe Morrow. How are you, Joe?
I'm
Happy New
doing
Year.
great. Happy New Year to you. I am very happy to be here. Happy to see what happens in the new year ahead.
Me too. It's nice to at least see that vaccines are rolling, even though the cases are high right now and places seem to be shutting down again. It's nice to see those vaccines out there, right?
I agree. Let's hope it makes a difference.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. So we thought we would start the year off with an episode about the do's and don'ts when it comes to hiring a private investigator. It seems as though there's a lot of misconceptions out there about PIs. Perhaps this is from movies or books, perhaps it is from like previous experience. Regardless of the reasons, the do's and don'ts we'll discuss today will help you. So before we get started, I have a question for you, Joe.
Okay.
What does everyone think about when you mention the term private investigator?
Oh, that's easy. Cheating spouses.
You got it. Cheating spouses, undercover agents, and things like that. While those are all accurate associations, PIs do a lot more. For example, your background screening firm that vets employees or potential business partners is a private investigative agency. The firm that provides litigation support services is a private investigative agency. The team that conducts bug sweeps is an investigative agency. So you get the idea. These tips we will give you today will apply to all those different things. So, Joe, why don't we get started with you? Talk about some of the do's as it relates to engaging a private investigative agency.
Sounds good. So let me just tell you where I come from. You probably all know I have a long career with the FBI on the analytical side, working primarily organized crime cases, terrorism, drug cases in the past. During all that time, I grew to learn how to make better use of that time when researching, and much of it will apply to this conversation, what you should do when you're looking for a PI. So let's jump right in. My first thing on my list is information, meaning prepare as much information as possible before speaking to any PI firm. A good agency will ask you a lot of questions, including what you need and why you need it. What I learned when I was doing my research was whether it was a person or an entity, that I needed to ask my investigators what they already knew. I didn't want to spend too much time or resources on something just to find out that they were already aware of it. So that's a good thing to do up front. Also, contrary to what a lot of people believe, PIs cannot investigate anyone for just anything. There should be a permissible purpose. Why are you asking this information? If you're unable to provide the appropriate information, it's going to be difficult for the PI to tell you what they can do, how long it will take, and how much it will cost. Number 2, ask for referrals. Get referrals from other organizations or people. There's nothing wrong with asking the PI firm for referrals. You want to be able to speak to people who have used them in the past. It's going to be difficult to kind of navigate your search when you're looking at several companies, so you want to have some kind of reference line to fall back on. And always speak to more than one agency when you're doing your research. You want someone you can trust. Due diligence. So conduct your own due diligence, meaning you do the research, do the searches online like everybody else can. Ask your references, whatever you need to know. Ask the PI firms for sample reports so you can see what you're going to get. Conduct your own research on the company and the principals in that firm. You really want to see which company feels like a better fit for you or your company. Fourth one I have is cost, price, the bottom line. You want to understand the fee structure And you've got whatever questions you may have, make sure you get that addressed up front, which leads me to number 5, clarity. Make sure there is documented understanding of those services and fees. Make sure you're clear what you're paying for, and that if you have any questions, they are expressed up front. Doing this will protect all parties involved.
Joe,
Do you have
those are
anything?
all just fantastic points. I like, I mean, so in many ways, obviously, when you're engaging almost any type of service firm, a lawyer, an accountant, whatever it might be, I mean, you really should be doing all of these things. But for a PI firm, it becomes even more important because you're making decisions based off of what the agency will provide to you. So as you mentioned, you really do want to be comfortable with who you pick. And you know what? It's different for different people. So, you know, one firm may be perfect for one person, but completely the wrong fit for another. So all excellent points, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I did my dues. Do you have some don'ts to offer our audience?
I do. So I guess in line with the name of our show, Investigation Insiders, I'm going to share some things that we know people are doing that they should not. Trust me. Listen carefully. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache. Number 1, don't assume anything. Just because a firm may be a licensed private investigator doesn't mean they know what they are doing. Ask questions and verify using some of the things that Joe spoke about. A perfect example is an investigative firm that focuses on surveillance work, but they may not be able to assist you if you have a need for a forensic accountant. But sometimes people, I guess, assume that because it's a private investigative agency that they can quote unquote investigate anything. That's just simply not true. It usually, as Joe mentioned, makes sense to talk to more than one group if you're looking to engage someone, and usually you get the answers you need by doing that. Number 2, this one seems obvious, but believe me, it is not. Don't ask an agency to do anything illegal, and don't accept anything obtained in an illegal manner. So, for example, if you call 3 agencies and 2 of them tell you that the information you want cannot be obtained in a legal manner, but the third says it can, this should be a red flag. A perfect example that we encounter over and over again, and in fact, we've encountered a couple of times over the past week, right, Joe, is employers looking to do background checks on their existing employees without following the FCRA guidelines. You just can't do it. So, you know, if you're told you can't do it by your agency or several agencies, it probably means you cannot. So keep that in mind. So another, again, somewhat obvious, somewhat not obvious thing is that people are sometimes involved in a criminal case, in a civil case, where they have an attorney or group of attorneys, and they'll sort of go off the beaten path and reach out to us and say, hey, I need your help with the investigation. And obviously, as we ask more and more questions, we find out that there's lawyers involved, and that there's cases going on and things like that. So don't ever reach out to an investigative agency if you're involved in something and without contacting your legal counsel. Typically, I mean, as you all know, we're brought in not necessarily under good circumstances. People need something from us, right? We know you're anxious. We know you want answers, but sometimes operating independently can actually hurt your case more than it can actually help. And from the investigator standpoint, and this is, you know, sort of inside baseball here, is it may not matter to us, right? But it will impact you. And, for us, it's important that we help you, but sometimes that's not the case. And you don't want to find that out when it's too late.
Good
Here's
point.
another very, very important one, is compare agencies, compare prices, but don't negotiate. Don't over negotiate with private investigators. If someone reduces their prices so drastically without a compelling reason could be high volume of work, it could be personal philanthropic reasons, things like that. It really should raise a red flag for you. I can tell you firsthand that we charge the fees that we do because we need to. It allows us to pay our people properly, deploy the necessary resources to get the job done, and complete things in a timely manner. And so, there's not much what we put forward is really where we are. And most agencies are like that. And something is going to likely suffer if you negotiate too much and the firm agrees to it because, again, you're not going to be high on their priority list unless there's a specific reason for it. And then lastly, I cannot stress this enough. Don't expect a certain outcome. We, as an agency, bill you for our efforts. We bill you for what we're doing in hopes of getting you the information that you need. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it does not. But many people contact agencies like ours expecting a certain outcome, right? And no agency in the world can guarantee you results, right? We see this like as an example with asset searches, right? So people are in a civil suit against one another, and people, they'll come to us and say, hey, I know this person has this, and this, right? And we'll say, okay, great, we'll investigate it, and we'll see if we can legally obtain the information and see if what you're saying is accurate. But understand that that may not be true. And so regardless of what we say, it seems like if we don't come up with the answer that they were looking for, that they're disappointed. And we can't change that. I mean, and neither can any other agency. And so it's very important that, we manage your expectations, but it's also important that you manage your own expectations. So I said a lot there. Joe, you have any questions or comments on that?
Yeah, on that last point, I'm just saying, so you're saying we can't really fabricate an outcome to what the client may want. So if I'm looking to score a big return on who I might be investigating, if you don't find any evidence of that or anything like that, you can't just make it up for me to please me.
We can't make it up for you, and we can't say, there's no way. The reason why you need the investigation is because you don't know the answer, right? And so that's what we're going to try to get you is the answer, and the answer may not always be what you want to hear, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So we usually end each episode with takeaways, and so I feel like, and Joe, I think you'd agree, the whole show is a takeaway, right? It's short, concise, and to the point in terms of what you should be thinking about. Joe, I'm going to toss that to you as well. Do you have any specific takeaways you want to talk to everyone about?
I gained a lot of clarity going through learning what I could from this company and my career of what to expect. The point of permissible purpose and having a reason for it, and you just can't engage a firm to research somebody just because you want to. There has to be some reason behind it, a legitimate reason behind it, not just because you're nosy.
That's a really good point, Joe. You know why? Because I always tell people, like, think about yourself as the subject being investigated, right? And if you think of it that way, would you want someone to be able to just come to us and say, tell me everything about Joe, tell me everything about Farhad? I mean, I think most people would probably say no, unless, there's a reason to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, when you think of it that way, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so I did
that's
learn a lot. So if anything, I think this list was helpful to me as we put it together, and I think it'll be helpful to those who are looking to potentially hire a PI firm.
I hope so. And so um, that's it. That's our episode. So thank you again for joining us. Please continue to subscribe and comment to us. It's all very, very helpful in terms of making the show better and in tune with what you all want to hear. Just for your information, we recently launched both a YouTube and Instagram page. Check it out if you get a chance. We'll put the links in the description of the podcast. You can also find out how to reach out to us if need be in the description. So thank you all again. Happy New Year. Thank you, Joe. Happy New Year to you as well, and looking forward to 2021.
Yep, have a happy and blessed new year.
Don't forget to follow us. We are on Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube.